I might just actually start with this. I love that the beeping in the background, like that's just New York.
Is it really intrusive? It really doesn't seem that loud to me.
It's not intrusive. Hi everyone, welcome to the PetaPixel podcast.
We're doing this. Okay.
I was serious. Yeah, I was saying we're doing it live.
Okay, great.
Chris
is working. The PetaPixel podcast is here. Everybody's busy. You know what? My passport says Jordan Drake on it, which is good because that's my name. It says
Jordan Michael Drake.
Jordan Drake.
It says Jordan Michael Drake.
Good catch.
Your middle name is Michael. I did not know that.
I am joined by my two co-hosts that are typically here. Hey, I got Chris Nichols and Jaron Schneider.
Hello.
And you know what? You might be like, this is too much charisma for you. Well, tough, because we've got another person here as well. Joining us again, 2 weeks back to back, we've got Sarah Tang.
Hello.
From New York, which explains the beeping.
And an upgraded microphone as well. We got her a Rode mic, so she's got the pod mic, the same ones we were using in at NAB, because it sounds luscious. So we've got her.
Which is why you're going to hear ambulances and trucks backing up and honking and people fighting. You're going to hear that throughout the whole thing.
We have a lot to talk about this week before I hand it over to Jordan, who has questions. I know he's looking at me like, wait, don't skip me. We need to go over Sarah's amazing recent project. We're also going to talk analog digital cameras. Yes, that's a thing now. But before that, Jordan, what do we got?
Okay, so I am packing up for a massive trip to Chile with Chris and Jaron. We fly out tomorrow morning, so I'm trying to get everything together. And it got me thinking, when you've been packing for a trip, what is the worst thing you've forgotten?
The worst thing that I've forgotten?
Oh, man, underwear. It's underwear.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, I have forgotten at least one of everything at some point in my career, which is why I have since created an entirely separate set of bags with a duplicate of everything I own, so I don't have to think. Because I've forgotten underwear, socks, I've forgotten deodorant, power cables. I've definitely forgotten power cables. Sarah knows what that's like because she borrowed one of my power cables once.
Yes. True.
That's the worst is underwear. And it was a multi-day thing too. So I ran out of sides on that underwear because guys know you can get 4 sides out of one pair, but I couldn't do it.
What? No, no, you can't.
I didn't forget it, but I was on a trip, my first press trip with Chris. They lost my luggage, and we were staying in the meatpacking district in New York. So I'm like, well, I need underwear and socks. I can wear the same clothes again 2 days in a row. But in the meatpacking district, the least expensive underwear was like $60 US, and it was probably hand embroidered. The socks were super fancy as well. So I had to expense to the airline. I'm shocked no one got on the phone really, dude? $60 underwear, one pair? But
they didn't question it?
No, never heard back. Just got reimbursed for that. And let me tell you, that made it 8 years, I think. That was veteran, that underwear, by the time I finally had to toss it. Just
because he wore it 4 times. Every day he wore it, 4 days in a row, he'd wear it, just switching it around. I don't forget things on trips, honestly. Because I try to do a very regimented thing, and I pack days before, little by little. So I usually don't forget anything. I forget sunglasses when I go fishing. That's a real problem. I always forget my sunglasses when I go fishing. And I have forgotten a toothbrush once in a while, but I think I was going to Japan or something, so it was okay because they just give you toothbrushes at the hotel. It's great.
Those little wooden ones we had on the last trip were really cool.
Airline companies take care of you now too, right? They usually give you those little packages and you get all the good stuff in there, a pair of socks.
They're pretty nice now, yeah.
Yeah, right? So that's okay. Yeah, so I've so far so good.
I have a different answer. So I was going to say toothbrush or underwear, but then I realized these things are all generally you can buy them at your destination. Yes. So the one that I've forgotten where it was there was no substitution was actually my Oura Ring charger. I actually forgot it when I went to Iraq, and I was there for 9 days, which it's fine. It's not the end of the world, but I just didn't have any in my timeline. It's just I have 9 days of a gap because you can't. I'll show you what it looks like. I actually have it. So
there's
it looks
no
like
other way
this.
to charge it.
Oh wow!
Yeah, there's no other way to charge it, and it's also size specific. So I had a friend on the trip who also had an Oura Ring, but my ring size is way smaller than hers, so I couldn't use hers. Oh. So I just didn't have my ring data for that whole week. So yeah, that's probably the worst.
You've never forgotten underwear?
I have, but again, you can find that. You can go out and buy that. For this one, I just had no alternative.
All right.
Mine was really similar to that for the Sony A7R4 launch. I needed neutral density filters. I left the bag at home. That was in New York as well. Man, all my missing stuff is always whenever I go to New York.
A7R3.
So I wound up, I was like, I got a stopgap. We're going to shoot this thing at 60 frames per second at f16 the entire first half of the episode. And then the second day, B&H opened up and I ran down there with Richard Butler to actually make a decent looking episode. But yeah, I've been there in a pinch and just like, you know what? A convenience store is not going to have neutral density filters and stepping rings. So that sucked.
Yeah, man. Imagine if that was Japan, though. You'd be so easy to get all these things.
Anyway, you could just walk out on the street like, I need ND filters, and someone would just toss them out their window at me. But
Have we ever forgotten any of our children, Jordan? Because that would make for a great movie, like around Christmas.
Yeah, but only if it was like a 6 out of 10 movie, but then John Williams made like a 10 out of 10 absolute banger of a score that makes it feel like one of the biggest and best movies ever made. Yeah, something like that.
What a great hypothetical idea. Anyways.
Yeah. All right, well, we've got a lot to talk about, so let's get into it.
We're back. Hey, you guys, we all hate advertisements, right? I mean, ads are the worst, which is why I'm about to give you an advertisement for the PetaPixel.com membership program, okay? This is an exclusive club. You guys only pay $3 a month or $30 a year, which is even less money, okay? And so that's really great. You're going to say, it is, right? Yeah, I think you save $6. What's 3 times 12? $6 you save. And here's the best part. You don't have to have any ads. Like, you can peruse all of our articles, all the fantastic content on PetaPixel.com, and there's none of those annoying ads. But we do really appreciate those ads because, like, that does pay our bills. So, like, if you're not going to get a PetaPixel membership, watch the ads. But if you are, pay the money and you get to peruse ads free. And there's more on here. You get 25% discounts on the merch store, which means if you buy enough merch, you will actually save money, right? Like, just buy more than $30 percentage.
This is like a 25%. Used car.
Yeah, just
so much thought required on
$120 worth of merch, and you've already paid for your membership, right? And then you get cool t-shirts like this. See, like this shirt here.
Calculator
you can have this
app
shirt
open.
Oh my God. For 25% off. Are you guys still doing math? So here's the other thing. We have sample galleries on there. So if you have a PetaPixel membership, you get exclusive access. The bouncers don't let any other riffraff in, and you get to download like JPEGs, RAWs, all the photos that we take on all the products. And we've got things on there like there's ThighPoc lenses on there, Panasonic S1 II, S1 IIe, ThighPoc. Yeah, ThighPoc.
It's actually ThighPoc. Yeah.
Thank you, Jordan.
So, like,
you're wrecking my ad.
We corrected the read in a video to the wrong thing.
Yeah, he wants to. It should be Thai. It sounds better as Thai, but it is supposed to be Thai.
I'm so sorry for Jordan. Okay. Anyways, can I get back to the ad, Jordan? This thing is great. You get all the sample galleries. We've got the Fujifilm X-Half that just came out. That's going to be on there. We've got like all sorts of great stuff. R50Vs, V1s. I mean, whatever you want, you can peruse it. But you have to get PetaPixel membership.
S1 IIe.
S1 II. I already said that. Gee.
But he's making sure it said.
Goodness. Anyways, you guys should check it out. It's fantastic. $3 a month, $30 a year. And it helps us out a lot. And Jordan will stop talking. So let's stop this ad.
Yeah, so we really appreciate it. The sample galleries were put there as a much requested thing for us to do, and you just can download all of the RAWs. We're having people shooting those sample galleries like this very second, actually. So we're constantly adding more, and hopefully you all appreciate that if you are a member. So thank you very much. All right, so we'll get straight into this. Firstly, excuse me, if you have not watched Sarah's Iraq video,
what's wrong with you?
You're doing a disservice to yourself because that video
is phenomenal on it.
Is incredible.
Thank you. It was my first YouTube /long form video ever.
Very nicely done.
That's actually crazy how high quality it
And
is for it being your first video.
Beautiful
ever.
side of Iraq, and
Thank you.
it's a country that not a lot of people get to see. So this is a great opportunity to like see it again now, and you know, you really do realize a lot about the country and how welcoming everybody is and how different it is from what people think it is. And I think you could probably speak to that. Hey, Sarah, you were there.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think I kind of knew a little bit about that going into it because I did go with my friends who I had seen their content from previous group trips, and we had obviously talked about it prior to me going. So I was like very much excited to just be able to experience that for myself. But yeah, I mean, it was just like a really fun week because we got to do so many different types of things, as you can tell from the video. Like we visited many more cities besides the ones that I actually shared about, but I just didn't exactly have enough content to cover every city.
Right.
But yeah, it was kind of like 9 days nonstop, which I kind of enjoy because we were just kind of running around the whole time. And there were so many different things to see and photograph. But yeah, to be honest, like I kind of knew going into the trip that I wanted to make something out of it. But at the same time, I never really sat down to plan my shot list or even like the video concept to kind of make it more of a cohesive story. So I ended up just using whatever I had. And that's why I ended up using a little bit of supplement videos from a friend as well. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out, honestly, and the fact that I was able to put something together. And I think it was received very well. So I'm very happy about that too.
It was received well. It had like an insane like to view ratio, which is very like Chris and Jordan get a pretty good like to view ratio. I think yesterday when I checked, you had tripled our normal like to view ratio. So the people, I think YouTube isn't necessarily like promoting it because it doesn't have Chris's face on the thumbnail. It's really important to the algorithm.
Put my face in the thumbnail for no reason.
Next time we will.
Just float it. So like that's why I would calling it out. If you haven't watched it, please do. There's also a supporting article that Sarah wrote that has like her pictures where you can sit there and just like look at them, which I did 4 times yesterday because I just like looking at the pictures. They're very, very nice. I do have some questions from viewers for you, Sarah, if you want to take a second to answer these. Jacob Dragon, with a GYN, Dragon, says, nice to see more of the human aspect of the country. Did you only use the lighting you found at the location? How much hard drive space did you end up using for your photos? And do you ever offer to send the pictures to the people you take them of?
Great questions. Good thing I have them also written down here because there's many to keep track of. So did I use, actually, yeah, no, it was all natural ambient lighting. I didn't carry any additional lights, partly because I don't really own any, but also I was traveling pretty light. I think I saw some of the comments. I think people were commenting on just like the way that some of the portraits looked, I assume. That was all done in post. I think I definitely tried to like accentuate facial features and kind of build out a little more dimension in the light if it's not there. But I mean, we had beautiful weather. It was just sunny every day. So I just used the light that was available. How much hard drive space? A lot. I shot all the photos on my A7R5, so the files itself are already pretty big. But then I was also doing video like on both the A7R5 and also my GoPro. Like, I think, oh gosh, actually, it's kind of, I'm trying to think through because I was editing my video and I can kind of see how big my media library was. I want to say it was probably like a few hundred gigs of data.
Wow. That sounds about right.
Because it was a lot of days. And like I said, I think I did end up getting sent like 45 gigs of data just from my friend. I didn't end up using all of that, but like I had a ton to pick out from. Obviously not all of it was great. And then some of it was 4K GoPro footage that was just running because it was POV. And so I didn't really stop a lot of it. So some of those videos were just really long and large. So I don't know. If you were Jordan, number.
You would now delete all of that.
Yeah.
I'm too scared.
I'm merciless that way.
Yeah. Jordan would be like, video's done, delete.
But a lot of our recent trips, like a terabyte per trip is pretty standard at this point now, especially when we've got multiple cameras running.
Yeah. I wanted to say, I think my Final Cut Pro library was like 800 gigs. So at least that. But I think I had a lot of duplicates in there too. So somewhere around that range.
That also, Team Final Cut. Yay. Continue.
Did you offer to send the photos? Yes. If I had the time to really like have a longer conversation and it came to that, I did exchange some info, whether it was like Instagram or WhatsApp. A lot of the times it was kind of like quick street interactions, and these were typically older men who really didn't care to have the photos. I would always show them the photo on the camera after I took it, just because sometimes they want to see it, but also it just makes them happy. But I only ended up getting a few people's contact information if they really wanted it. And I did send a few people their photos, but not everyone by any means.
The next question, actually, maybe even Chris can talk about this too, or Jordan as well. But Starbase says, I have to ask about gear. I mostly travel with zooms, possibly because of a FOMO. With a prime, I'm just less comfortable because if I'm somewhere new, I don't know what to expect. I know that for travel, some people say just get a super zoom. I never did that because 90% of my photography is done while traveling. So then I'd sacrifice the thing I do most photography with. So instead I have an f4-ish trifecta, but maybe I'm wrong to be so reluctant to take primes. What do you think?
You want me to go first? You want to take that, Chris?
Yeah, go for it, Sarah. No, it's for you. It's for you.
Well, I mean, I assume this person already read the article to see exactly what I brought. I don't love a super zoom because I don't want to carry something that heavy. So I typically always will do like my 24-70 plus my 16-35. So I have a really wide range, but those are both very much like ideal for traveling. They're very small, light. I have the Mark IIs on both of those, so they're great. And then I did also bring a few of the Sigma lenses, including the 50mm prime, which ended up being my most used lens on the trip. I was a little bit surprised about that, actually. But each day I basically just I kind of had an idea of what we would be shooting. So on street, like walking around days, I always had the 50 plus I actually brought the 16-35 because I'd rather be safe on the wider end rather than like too close in on the 24-70. So that was different for this trip, actually, for me, because I typically am always using the 24-70. But this time, because I had the 50 on me, I was like, that's kind of my closest focal range. And then I just used the wide. I had the wide in my sling bag with me. Those are probably the two most that I, like the most common combination I had for this trip. Because I don't know. That's just me. I feel like I don't feel too much FOMO not having too far on either end. So that was my combo for this trip.
I've changed quite a bit, and I think Jordan can attest to this too. I mean, when I first started out, I really wanted all my bases covered. I really liked the idea of having zooms to cover everything. I didn't want to travel without having a telephoto and a wide angle and an ultra wide angle and all that kind of stuff. And then, doing this show for however long we've been doing it now, it's really kind of changed that. And I really like to travel lighter now. And I think just the nature of my job, I'm always limited in some major way anyways, right? Because I'm using whatever that gear is that day. If it's a lens, I'm just using that lens, right? And so I think over time, I've just kind of gotten used to just kind of working with whatever I have at the moment and making that work and forcing it to work. And if I do have an option to bring lots of gear, often I'm like, I don't want to bring it. I mean, Jordan's always like, should you want to bring this lens? You maybe should bring a lens for this. I'm like, I'm going to leave it at home. And I know it drives me crazy, but I like now to limit myself and not necessarily have all the options. And I feel like in a lot of cases that works for me. If it's more of a personal project though, I do tend to still feel like, maybe I should take this and take that so I'm covered. But for the show, I'm quite comfortable just be like, look, this is the lens I'm taking. This is what we're reviewing. This is all I'm going to use the entire trip and make it work.
Yeah, I've not learned that lesson despite trying to, because the last time we went to go shoot the world's biggest camera, I was like, I'm just bringing two primes, a 24 and an 85, and I loved that. I think it turned out really well on the trip, and I was packing my bag for this trip, and I put two primes in the bag, and then I said, actually, I better bring a zoom, and then I threw a 24-105 in the bag. So I'm still too antsy to just, limit myself to a couple primes on something. I did that over the weekend we'll talk about it later with what you're up to. But I really wish I had a telephoto, and there was a telephoto sitting on my desk. But I'm like, I'm going to ditch it for this weekend, and it was a huge mistake. So, yeah.
I will say, like...
No,
oh, sorry. Well, one thing I will say, like, if I had to pick, like, if someone gave me a choice between 3 primes or a slightly slower zoom that covers it, I would generally go the zoom route personally. I don't know.
Me too.
And it's not so much from an image quality standpoint or flexibility. It's really just laziness. I like the convenience and speed of just being able to use a zoom on the go. What I like is the idea of just taking a camera with one lens, throwing it over my shoulder, forget the bag kind of thing. Whereas, of course, when you have multiple lenses like primes, you gotta take a bag with you and have pouches and whatever and stuff. I'm like, I think for me, given the shot, I'd actually go with the zoom in most cases.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that's my biggest issue is I've noticed that if I take so many different lenses, because I used to always just have everything on me to make sure I covered every situation, but then I'd have to wear it on my back, like in a backpack.
Yeah.
And I am so lazy that I don't even want to put my bag down to open it up. And camera bags, you have to like set it down flat.
Oh, yeah.
And I just end up not switching lenses as often as I would like. So then if I just bring my sling bag and like you said, just bring one extra lens, then I actually will switch between them because it's easier.
Exactly.
And I end up using it more than if I brought everything on my back. I've found
Go
that.
Team Lazy.
Let me tell you about the joys of a giant shoulder bag that you just throw over that weighs more than a backpack.
That's a choice you make.
Yeah. And look where it got me, Jaron. I'm one of the 4 boxes here today.
Yeah, he's got scoliosis and he's always complaining about back pain. Yeah.
When I go places now, even for personal or work, and I often make work personal, I will just use a single prime. Like I don't care.
Madness.
I will go to Japan equipped with a 35 millimeter and be perfectly happy the entire time. If I bring more than that, it's because I'm bringing 2 cameras and I have color in one and black and white in the other. And in which case I will have a zoom prime, a telephoto prime, not a zoom prime, telephoto prime on one and a somewhere in the wide to normal on the other. That's all I want. I like being limited because I find myself to be more creative when I'm limited. If you give me a zoom, I find myself not taking as many pictures for some reason because my brain has a hard time remembering what my actual like view will be before I put the camera to my eye. That's just me.
Yeah,
whatever.
It's interesting how everybody has very different approaches.
So to answer your question here, Starbase, if you're got a F4 trifecta and you're happy, keep rocking it, man. You don't need to do what everyone else does. Do what works for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Seriously though, go watch Sarah's video.
Yeah,
and now we're gonna go talk about some news. All right. So first bit of news here is that Nikon was the top selling full-frame mirrorless camera in Japan for the first time for Nikon in the entirety of the mirrorless era. They have never been the number 1 selling camera, and they did it thanks in large part to the Z5 II.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Yep. I mean, I think they've obviously been on an upswing. The Z8, Z9 brought them a lot of love, and Z6 III, I don't know if it did as well as they were hoping, but then the Z5 II comes out, and yeah, it's just such a great camera. It's pricier than what the original Z5 was, but I think it also speaks to the fact that with all the tariff stuff going on right now, and prices in general rising even before all of that stuff, people are more drawn to affordable products. And if they can give really good value for the dollar, which the Z5 does, the Z5 II does in a huge way, then yeah, it's a no-brainer. People are going to gravitate towards that. And you're really not compromising with that camera much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the big reason for this is the first time they've had a very competitive camera throughout their entire full frame line. Yeah. It's been a long time where it's like, yeah, the pro side is great. I hope they update the rest of the line soon. But now we've got their modern autofocus, all the good video stuff throughout the entire line now. So it makes perfect sense. They're selling cameras at every price tier.
Yeah.
Sarah, what's your experience with Nikon? Have you used any of their modern mirrorless?
I haven't really used much of the modern ones, but technically the very first DSLR experience I had was my dad's D8000, I think it was.
7,000?
7,000? It was like a bulky, large DSLR, and I had no idea how to use it. But, I mean, I had a good experience back then, but I know that their Z line is quite different now. So
Oh, yeah.
actually, I think that's what my dad has now. I think he has something in the Z line, but I haven't like gone home and really like played around with it that much. They look great.
They are great. I really like. I've said this multiple times, but if I was starting from scratch today, it would be with a Nikon camera. I'd probably buy a Z.
How are they on like price compared to others?
Better.
The Z5 II is particularly good. Oh, and the Z8 for what you get is fantastic for the price. Yeah.
The Z9 is the cheapest flagship camera on the market.
So they really are, but they don't feel like they should be cheaper. I think Nikon was just really aggressive to get more market share, and it's working. Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
You could buy like a D7000 for like $150 now. It's sad. I don't want to talk about what I paid for it brand new. I bought a D70 and then a D200, and then they were expensive cameras back in the day. And
yeah. They're also
all right. Let's talk about focal length Chris likes. Voigtlander announced a new Heliar 75 f1.8 that has adjustable aberration and bokeh control. It seems like this is an interesting move from Voigtlander because maybe they're out of ideas for standard lenses because they've made them all. So this one is unusual in that it lets you like change the sharpness and appearance of the bokeh.
Yeah, this isn't new. I mean, we've seen this from other companies. Nikon did this for a little while with one of their lenses. I think Canon did too. Hey, Jordan?
The DC series. Yeah.
DC series. Yeah, on Nikon, yeah. And but other companies have done this before too. And yeah, I mean it's kind of fun. I'd like to play with it because I do love the 75mm 1.8. I don't totally dig the spherical aberration control ring myself, just because like what you're trading, you do get softer bokeh, you get softer backgrounds, but you also get a loss of contrast. And not just that, but also generally a loss of sharpness on the actual subject as well. And you could even say, I mean, sharpness is contrast. So anytime you take contrast away, you do lose sharpness. And so you're going to a soft look, but also a very dreamy look. And that is neat that you can dial that in. So I'll play with it, but I generally find that I just want to have fairly clean looking photos myself just for my style, but I get it. And it can give you that very sort of classic old school look. It can give you that 80s wedding look if you want it. And just the fact that you can tune it to your sort of desirability is nice. But I prefer generally having my subject to still be quite sharp and focus and then have soft bokeh from just like a classic wide aperture with shallow depth of field, personally.
I think it's interesting that everyone's going towards like worse quality again. I love it. Yeah. Like the handy cam.
We got to find a way to flaw this image.
Yes, exactly. The blurred, like the motion blur. Love it.
Yeah. I think that same mentality is why that harsh flash is, back as like a look too.
It is funny.
Chris is like not a fan that's back, but he,
it's
whatever.
Not that I'm not a fan of it. I just don't like, we worked so hard to get rid of all these issues. And now everybody's like, I want these issues, right? Yeah. But it's also funny though, like you've been able to go into Photoshop for decades and soften your images and get these blurry looks, and you can do some cool stuff with just brushes and you can get these kind of dreamy out of focus looks if you want with a little bit of practice. But people love the fact that you can do it physically in the lens, and it does have a sort of more natural aesthetic to it if you do it in lens. And like these portraits are pretty. You can do these very dreamy effects. I just think it's a fairly one-trick pony. It's not something that I would use that often, but hey, if it floats your boat,
well, since you can turn it on and off, it's technically a two-trick pony.
There you go. It's a two-trick pony. Yes.
So viewers and listeners, I want to know, should I start shooting Chris like Grace Kelly in a 1950s Hitchcock movie and like net the back of the lens and Vaseline? And whenever it cuts to a close-up of his face, it's all smeary and then it's sharp in the wides. I think that's exactly what we should start doing. Yeah.
If I look younger, I'm all for it.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this lens maker. They're called Blazar.
I've heard of them. They're making a stir.
Are they? Oh, wow. Is it because
a lot of people talking at NAB, and I was like, I'm not going to check out that booth. And then I walked away, and I was like,
that was a mistake.
Oh, actually, they got some cool stuff going on. What a huge mistake. Yeah.
Well, they have the new Blazar Beetle anamorphic lenses, 1.33x. Sorry, Jordan, not a 2x, as much as you wish everything was a 2x. I agree with you.
I'm a snob.
These ones have a weird rotatable anamorphic thing going on. I don't know. When would you use this?
Well, it's kind of cool. So if you are shooting like a more boxy format, as opposed to like Jaron, you were wrestling with this where you were swinging, shooting the anamorphic vertically and it's like super squeezed. So with this, you can actually rotate the element, shoot it in a 4x3 and it'll stretch vertically in the frame. So now you get like a slightly taller than usual instead of like a massively skinny vertical. So it's actually anamorphic for portrait or for shooting vertical video, which is actually a really clever use of it at this point. So, I mean, it does mean your streaks are also now, they're still going to be properly oriented instead of holding the lens vertically as well. So you can get like horizontal streaks, taller frame, which is pretty clever. But I haven't gotten my hands on these yet. I just heard about them when we were leaving the show. Like,
and everybody's like, "Did you see those Blazars?
They're spinning their anamorphics." I'm like, "What's going on?" I had no idea. So, I'm very curious. I'd like to see some more footage from these as well. But it's a smart. I think so much with anamorphics, everyone's like, "Can we recreate what they looked like in the past?" Where this is very much a like, how are people actually using these now? So photography for anamorphic and vertical video are both quite popular. So they're
affordable too.
It's cool. Yeah,
they're affordable.
Very reasonable.
Cool.
All right. Well, we'll see. They look really small too, so that's kind of
nice. I mean, I don't know that they're stellar optically. I'm sure they're fine, not great.
Yeah,
but
if you're making stuff for social
fine.
content, who cares? Like at that point,
yeah, exactly.
All right, this one's weird. DJI told us and told everyone that the Mavic 4 Pro was not going to be made available in the United States, and they did not really actually provide pricing for that. It turns out it was kind of sort of available in the US for a little bit of time. After all, nobody knows.
True.
I don't know where they're coming from. DJI says they aren't giving them to dealers. It seems to me that some chicanery happened. I don't know how, but for Adorama, B&H, and even DJI's flagship brick and mortar store in New York, we're selling a limited number of these in person on launch day. Obviously, they're sold out now, but like,
yeah. Now, I don't think B&H got them, right? If I understand correctly,
Adorama did though.
Adorama definitely did. I thought B&H
Photo
had some.
did not. You know, but they were both. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. How they're both like on the website, and customers or people in the comment section were saying, "Oh, I've got mine on pre-order." Like with these companies, that doesn't mean they're ever going to come, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe Adorama finagled like an early shipment before embargo release or something. Who knows? Like
I'm wondering if
that does sometimes happen with retailers. It's hard to say.
So Drew Garaci, who you might know, he did like the House of Cards opening, the incredible ending credits for West Side Story. He got one. So he was posting that Adorama did actually deliver one of them to him. So
Tony
they're
got
shipping
one
out to people. Tony, yeah. So they're out there.
Like I think he just ordered it online. I don't think he's like within walking distance of one of those stores in New York, right? He doesn't live in New York. So
should I text him, see where he got it? I could text him right now and have the answer before this show is over.
I feel like he put it in the as a comment on PetaPixel. Like he just said, "I got one," so I was like, "All right,
drive to Canada." There you go.
I have a friend who happened to be in China at the time of launch, and she posted a story, and it was like she bought like 8 of them to bring back for people, and like it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So they're smugglers now.
Yeah, you have to pay a tariff on those unless you don't.
It might be for people there. I don't know. I think it was a mix of, I don't know how many she's actually bringing back, but it probably
we're going to say 0.
Yeah, load up your suitcase and hope for the best, right? I'm sure a lot of this is happening right now.
Yeah, 4 days ago, Tony said on this other story that I'll reference briefly about how DJI actually got the pricing all messed up out here. So like the pricing they gave us as media was incorrect. It was in US dollars, but it wasn't the amount they were planning on selling the drone for in US dollars either. It was a mystery US dollar number that they couldn't explain to me. And they also didn't explain why the numbers were all mixed up, but we did get actual Canadian pricing. For anyone curious, that is going to be $2,850 for the biggest drone in Canada. But Tony says his arrived from Adorama. I was very confused when it actually shipped. Guess I'm one of the lucky few.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Wait, so how much
Tony?
is it in USD?
You know.
Like 22.
Well,
We don't know.
I asked him where it came from, so now I will add to the text message chain.
Yeah.
Now that we know it's from Adorama,
What did
how
he
much
pay
did you
for
pay?
it? I bet. I mean, did he? I think.
$8,000.
Like, if you look on their websites, I don't know that they had them listed as individuals. They were only listed as like combos, and those were really expensive. So, I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe they're just like, oh, this is the dude that did House of Cards. Send him one. Oh, this is Tony Northrup. Send him one. I don't know. Maybe just like,
exactly.
Just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
well-known,
getting them.
well-known industry peeps are the only ones getting them. Who knows?
Speaking of Tony Northrup, quick shout out, Tony. Thank you for buying a Shoot on Location, You Cowards, Film on Location,
Hey,
You Cowards
Yes, you
t-shirt.
champion.
Yeah, we saw that come in because we can see where these things are shipping, and we saw you. So we expect to see that shirt on you soon. Thank you for
appreciate
buying
it.
That's awesome. All right, so we're gonna do a quick little roundup of stuff that happened this past week with our favorite theme here. We can start with some good news. The Leica Deluxe 8 and Lux Grip, which went like sky high in price. Like, I think the Lux Grip was like 90% more expensive overnight because there was a reduction in tariffs from China and the United States. Is there for a pause time here for about
3 months
a little
so far.
3 months, which seems to be the favorite here. We're going to do it for 3 months or whatever. It's only 30% tariffs go to China right now for a lot of things. Not everything was changed. It's just like the main top down one or whatever. The Deluxe 8 is now more expensive than it was, but less expensive than it has been in recent months. So the prices are constantly fluctuating. The Deluxe 8 will now cost $875. Let's say it saw a price adjustment of $875.
Yeah, it was $1,600. Then it went up to $2,800 roughly. Now it's down to like $1,900. So
correct.
It's less, but it's more than it was before.
And that grip went down $230, so now it's $395.
Yeah.
I pretty fast reaction time from Leica here. We said that they probably wouldn't reduce their price. We were wrong. So thank you, Leica, for
Wow,
not.
what a great company.
Yeah, they did a good thing there.
But again, it goes back to what we talked about before, where I'm like, if I was a consumer right now, I would be like, hands off for a while. Like, I'm not spending any money until all of this craziness calms down, or at least regulates a little bit more. So hopefully we'll see that happen now over this next 3 months. Maybe it'll be a busy 3 months.
These next three stories are somewhat related. Nikon, all of the camera companies have recently done like their quarterly earnings and like reports on what they're going to do in the next quarter. Nikon's business looks good. Their profits and their revenues are like holding steady, but they have said that if tariffs don't go away, the 10% one, that could hurt their profit by $70 million, which for a small company like Nikon, I think people forget how like Nikon's a pretty small company.
Compared to the other ones, yes.
Well, let's compare it to the bigger one. Sony anticipates a $682 million decrease in operating income because of them. And on that note, there was a rumor last week that Sony would be increasing the prices of a bunch of lenses, accessories, and a few compact cameras. That did happen. We asked Sony, like, is this rumor true? And Sony continues to decline to comment on any tariff or pricing related inquiry, period. They won't explain anything. They won't say anything at all. But this report came out last week and said that the price increases would happen on Monday. They did. So here's some examples. The 28 to 135 f4 went up from $29.98. It went up to $29.98 from $24.99.
Yikes.
The 400 to 800 f6.3 to 8 was $28.99. It is now $32.98. And then the 16 to 55 f2.8G was $1,400. It is now $1,700. And so there's a lot of fluctuations there. What didn't change are any of like the Alpha series cameras. Like the A7R5 is the same price it was when it launched.
And all the G Masters as well.
Yeah, these are all G lenses or lower.
Guys, breaking news. Tony Northrup paid $2,700 for the base model Mavic 4 Pro.
Was it a bundle or was it just the drone?
Just the base model, he says.
27? Yeah, because the Canadian
$26.99.
price is $28.50.
Yeah,
so like,
Right. Yeah, that doesn't track, but
yeah.
Well, it does if the tariffs are different, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's very expensive.
That's a lot.
I hope he enjoys it. All right. Well, the last thing is going to lead directly into our main story segment, so we'll cover it. I'm sure all of you are wondering why we haven't talked about Fujifilm's latest compact camera, the X half. Sarah, show it. There it is. There's an X half.
It's got a little leash for the lens cap. But
I hate that lens cap, man. What an annoying cap. And not having filter threads on there so I could put a different snap cap on it. Come on.
The camera doesn't need a lens cap anyways. Yeah. They're adorable.
So, what is this camera, Chris?
So yeah, we've reviewed it. The review is out. You should definitely watch it. And it's a very interesting product. I mean, we haven't seen anything like this before, at least from like the major manufacturers. And it goes well beyond just like a retro styled camera, because Fujifilm have always done that. So essentially it is a compact, pocketable digital camera. It does have full manual control. It's got a fixed sort of 32 millimeter full frame equivalent lens on there, f2.8, tons of depth of field, like it shoots a lot like a disposable camera would, like everything in focus. And in fact, the lens is designed to match their quick snap disposable lenses as far as focal length goes almost exactly. Nice image quality. It's a type 1 sensor. The lens seems sharp. I mean, the photos are good. I didn't mind them, and that's not really the point of this camera anyways. But it really is kind of two cameras in one. It's a half frame name, but it's not a half frame camera. It is a vertically oriented sensor though, and that means the OVF is vertical, the screen is vertical, and that's kind of fun and silly.
Sarah, turn it around, show the back while he talks.
Yeah, you can see the screen there vertical, right? In hindsight, I don't know that I love it, but I mean, I guess it does make the camera even smaller, but you could have gone with a horizontal sensor and a type 1 and fit it no problem into the same body. Really though, you can see there, Sarah's showing there the thumb winder. So this is a love letter. This X half is a love letter by a Fujifilm designer to make a camera that inspires as close to an analog film experience as possible. And so I say it's two cameras in one because really you've got the one camera, which is just a pocketable, vertically oriented, compact point and shoot. And that's great. There's nothing special there. It's not unique in any way in that regard. But you have a second camera mode called film camera mode. And if you want to look at this in a very cynical way, basically Fujifilm is limiting you in so many factors to make this an analog-esque experience. If you want to look in a very, optimistic way, it's a really cool way to give people an experience that they might not normally have. So basically, you have to choose your film stock. You have very basic exposure settings when you go into film camera mode, and you don't get the screen anymore. You just use the OVF. And you have to use the thumb winder to advance your frame every time you take a picture. It won't take a picture otherwise. There you go. And it even counts up your frames as you shoot. It goes 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4. And when you're done your roll, it rewinds it all back in reverse and then gives you double lines. Like, it's adorable. It even, at the end of the experience, you use the app to develop your photo. I'm using a lot of air quotes. You need to use air quotes. You develop your film with the app. It gives you a contact sheet, which for some inane reason starts out kind of looking like negatives. They're not, but they kind of look like it, and then turns them into your actual shots. And
does it even do that for Provia, which is not a negative film?
Don't question it, Jaron. It's ridiculous, but. It's fun, it's silly, it's kind of stupid, but it's a neat idea to kind of like, if you're in the mindset, it gives you a unique shooting experience. You don't get the instant gratification. You just kind of shoot your roll, rewind it when you're done. Like, these are all fun things. In practice, and I guess this is my main point about this camera. For me, if I want to, and I know I'm coming from a more serious photographic position, and maybe it depends on who buys this camera. I know it's not made for me, but for me, if I really want to have the fun of an analog experience, especially knowing very well what that experience is, I need as much immersion as possible. And to their credit, doing things like the contact sheets, the app, that does kind of get you there, but the thumb winder has no ratchet to it. It's just like a loosey-goosey thing. And I found that it often wouldn't register my thumb winding after I take a picture. So I got to double wind, or I got to wait a few seconds, then wind. It's a kind of slow, ponderous camera. It focuses slow. There's a big delay between shots. The thumb winder doesn't always register. So there's a lot of things that kind of aren't fun and pull you out of the immersive experience. And then it's hard to really be caught up in the giddiness of ooh, it's kind of like a film camera when I'm oh crap, I got to wind again, or I'm getting the red light in my LED again because it didn't register, or I'm trying to take a picture but this thing's slow as hell.
You're such a curmudgeon.
I am, but it's true. So I feel like it's not that affordable. Although it is really nicely built and it's gorgeous and it's fun. And I mean, Sarah, I know you've had a little bit of time with it, maybe not a lot, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. No electronic flash, that to me is stupid. The cold shoe is useless. Like there's some weird things on here that just kind of pull me out of the fun. And the whole point of this camera is it's either fun or there's no point to it. So that's where I'm coming from. Maybe I'm a curmudgeon, I guess.
Before you go, Sarah, just to mention pricing, it is $850 or $998 Canadian dollars. So
that's not cheap for a fun little experience, a unique experience.
I agree. No, I think you really hit everything, though. I just got this yesterday, so I haven't had a lot of time with it. I'm actually taking it out later today to shoot. But yeah, a lot of the same thing. Like, I really wish, out of all the film camera aspects of it, I really wish the thumb winder had more resistance or something to it. Like, I don't know, like on the Pentax 17, I love that film advance. It just feels really nice, but you can actually feel it moving.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, I was going to ask, like, if it's not a hot shoe, like what can you actually do with this cold shoe mount?
Nothing. And that was another complaint.
You can mount a GoPro to it.
Who cares? Yeah, there you go.
That GoPro is already like as big as this, so that would just make it like double the size. I don't know.
True. It's a microphone, but there's no way to plug a microphone in. It's just headphones with an adapter.
I get that electronic flash is like old school. We're talking xenon bulb. It takes up space because you need the bulb, you need a capacitor, all that kind of stuff. But that's the cool look that people want. Like, why not do it? This is a bright LED, but it's an LED, so it doesn't give you that look. And then you have a cold shoe on the top, but there's no PC sync port or center pin. So it's like, why can't I just get like an old flash, on eBay and throw it on here and plug it in and get that experience? Well, that's a great question, Chris. You can't. And I don't know why they did that. So that cold shoe, what would you mount on there? There's no vertically oriented separate OVFs to put on there over the lens. And the one that's on there is perfectly good. I have no idea why you'd use it.
Weird. It is an
microphone. Like,
oversight.
No one's going to, come on. And the video's garbage.
Yeah.
I like that it's limiting, like that the cut in your video, Jordan, where it's like, oh, we found out it actually cuts you off.
Yeah, we made a discovery.
90 seconds, was it?
55. I don't know if that's normal, but it sure quit at 55 seconds. I'm like, oh, sorry, Jordan.
There was like a reel that Fujifilm had posted. I think it was maybe yesterday, but I think they filmed on the new camera.
Yeah, 1440 by 1080. It's CRT ready.
It's odd. It's very odd. CRT ready.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Look, I think that the idea behind this camera, as Chris touched on, he doesn't agree that it's always this, is just to have fun.
Yeah.
And like, I think a lot of photographers really quickly forget that photography is a hobby that we are supposed to enjoy. And this camera is really pushing that enjoy sort of thing. I understand that it's not perfect at it. So that's I think what the conversation is going to be next.
Yeah.
Is what would we have done differently if we were going to design a camera that's like this?
Because like, make no mistake, I have said multiple times on the podcast, I love the idea of this. Like, this is what I was asking for. I've said, like, I want a digital camera that mimics an analog experience, has a thumb winder that you have to use, but then I don't know if they quite got it there, but you got to give Fujifilm credit. Like, nobody else has tried this, because I'm sure every boardroom, when they mention this, they're like, that's stupid. That will never sell. You're crazy. Don't do it, right? I'm sure this conversation has gone through many Japanese boardrooms. And so kudos to Fujifilm for being like, let's give it a try. And you know what? I bet it's going to sell like crazy.
I think it's going to do great.
It's going to do great because it's Fujifilm. They just can't do any wrong. So, but I love the idea of it. I want to have this tactile experience. I just think and they went really far to kind of try to really mimic that.
So what would you do different? We'll start here, Chris. What would you do differently? Design your dream camera on the same general concept.
So, I think what Fujifilm tried to do with the X-Half is do the two different cameras. And that's cool. I get it, right? And I actually enjoyed the standard camera more than the film camera version, or mode, I should say. I enjoyed it. I mean, it's a nice, pocketable little camera. But I would say if I was going to do an analog digital camera, I want it to be a very unique, like a unique experience and a very analog feeling experience. So my dream camera would probably be to do like the Canonet QL17 or 19 series of camera. I love that size. Type 1 sensor, no problem, but I wouldn't orientate it vertically. I just keep it, horizontal. 4.3 is fine with me, but I would definitely keep it as an optical rangefinder. I think that would be cool. So having a coupled rangefinder to the fixed prime lens, they came with cute little lenses. They was like the Canon at 28, the 43mm 1.9. Like you had these neat little lenses in there that you could shoot. So I like the look of it. It's a really nice design. Have the thumb winder that's required to shoot, but I would ignore like the film stuff. I don't want to have the film experience of being limited to one roll. Let me change between black and white and color whenever I want, but give me a coupled rangefinder, manual focus only, aperture control, some basic exposure controls, and simple camera. And I think that kind of experience, there aren't enough digital rangefinders on the market. There should be. Leica owns that market, and other people could make affordable ones. That's what I would want to do. That'd be my little like dream analog experience. That's not analog.
Sarah?
Echoing a lot of the same things. Definitely would like a rangefinder. I think that would be that's like part of the analog experience that everyone really loves. And so to put that into like a digital would be really cool. I do love the size of it. I think I really enjoy tiny cameras because it just like, it's so easy to bring anywhere or put wherever. I mean, I have small hands and my hands make it look larger, but it's tiny.
Like, it's deceptive.
Yeah. It's a great little camera design.
It's 2/3 the size of an X100.
It's so cute. Yeah, I love that part of it. I agree. I think it's just like, well, okay, not talking about this one. What else? I mean, like we said, just like the tactile experience of it. Like this one does have the aperture ring, which is pretty fun, and the manual focus ring as well. It's also just really tiny though. So maybe just like, I don't know, focusing on all of those things. I think it would be cool if instead of the screen on the back that is there or not there when you're in film camera mode, kind of similar to the X Pro 3 or like the backwards screen, I think is kind of cool because then you can open it up when you want to, but its natural state is just the film sim. Other than that, I think I'm pretty on the same page with like Chris's, but just like, yeah, I don't know. I like the way that this is. And I mean, I haven't tried it in all the different modes yet, but I feel like just literally making the buttons a little more tactile and making the whole experience feel more closer to an actual film camera would be nice. Because that's
camera needs
at the end of the day. Yeah, at the end of the day, like the why we like film camera as an analog is because it's very simple. So like even less of this would be nice.
I'm going to make Chris so angry with my thoughts on what I would love to see with this. Because I haven't shot with this. Like, I've taken photos with it, but I haven't used it much in the film camera mode because I need to use a bunch of different settings when we're, doing sample galleries, things like that. But I love the concept of it. I think that's a lot of fun. And as soon as this video is published, I have to send the camera back. But if I had one for a few days, I'd love to go shoot some rolls of film. But I do agree with both of you that I want to have the experience of doing that substantially improved. And the biggest drawback to me with this camera is when you're using the film camera mode, you only want to shoot with the optical viewfinder, but there's no actual information in it, which I find incredibly frustrating. So I think if they just made this a bit upmarket, but yeah, absolutely keep the app. So we have to shoot a certain number of shots and then we can change out our film, process it. All that stuff I think is awesome. But give me, like you said, a mechanical shutter that I can actually feel like, it won't crank anymore when I'm on to the next shot, like have a physical stop on it. Give me a viewfinder that has, I don't think a rangefinder necessarily, because we've been told repeatedly those are so expensive to manufacture and fall off, but use the same interface we've got in the X100 or the X Pro 3, that hybrid optical, so I can see my shutter speed, I can see my focus point, all that kind of stuff, I think would make it a lot more usable. And just juice the sensor a tiny bit, like make it an APS-C sensor still with a 2.8 lens. It's not going to be that much bigger, but you're still getting an advantage. Because with this, I keep looking at the photos and being like, it looks like a smartphone picture because the sensor's bigger, but the lens is slower than we'd see with a smartphone. So you kind of wind up meeting both ways. But I think $1,500 for a camera that's optical viewfinder first, and instead of an LCD, just put a little digital display with like shots remaining and stuff like that. But let me see all my exposure information, shutter speed, the aperture I've selected, because it is maddening to like look through the viewfinder and then be like, oh, damn it, what aperture am I set to right now? Then you have to take your eye off the viewfinder and check on it, all that kind of stuff, and have your ISO and current film displayed in it. I think that'd be really cool.
So it seems like what everybody wants is even less camera, which is interesting, right? Like we're talking about this camera and everybody wants less camera. Jaron, what would you do?
The thing is, it's a kind of a combination of everything you guys have mentioned. You're getting close. I think if you're going to do a thumb winder on it, which I find adorable, it's absolutely superfluous and unnecessary. It's adorable. Then you have to act
yanking on it.
Yeah,
it feels
want
good.
to.
Yeah.
Make it feel even better. I agree that it should have a real click, a real pull. Even if it's not doing anything in there, you can put the springs and crap in there to make it feel like it does it. One of the other things that I happen to really like about film cameras is the sounds they make. And I feel like that's so difficult to convey through digital. And the only way you really can do it is to put more of those mechanical pieces in there. And I just don't know if it's worth it. Like right now, my favorite camera, it just makes the most satisfying chunk when that photo is taken. And I really, really like that. And I just don't know that it's possible to really add that in. What Sarah? You feel like
Did you know you can change the shutter sound on this?
Can I make it to a Hasselblad shklunk? Because that's what I want with a leaf shutter.
I can. Let me see if I can play through them because there's 3 options. Where is it? Shutter sound. Okay, this is number 1. This is, you heard that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is number 2.
Well, that's a little more crisp. That's nice.
Yeah.
And then number 3.
I think I like 2. Yeah.
Yeah, classic SLR.
1 is the default.
Yeah. You know, I will say it's nice that you can change it because, like, if you can't hear it go off, sometimes it's hard to even know that you took a picture in film camera mode, especially in a busy street like New York City. It's going to be tough, Sarah. Like, you got to. I would set a shutter that you can really hear because there's times where I take like the focusing's so slow, and then you take a picture, and I didn't know if it actually took a shot. So I'm like in film camera mode. So I'm like, did it take a shot? And then I'm winding on the thumb winder, but there's no resistance, so who knows, right? Whereas a film camera, you'd know right away. You'd try to wind. You're like, oh, it didn't wind.
Oh,
right?
yeah. That's the thing they would need to add is it would need a communication with it. Like it knows that you aren't moving it. That would be great.
And once it's cranked, it can't crank anymore, right? Like
that's right.
These are tactile experiences that we take for granted. So here's an idea then, like, the Fujifilm is the first to really push it this far, but other people have tried. I mean, the Epson RD1 is a great example of kind of what I want to come back, but in a smaller format. I don't think a coupled rangefinder would be that hard to do, honestly. I think they're just saying that because they don't want to.
I think that's also true, especially if it was
not
fixed.
that hard.
If it's
I mean, if you could do it in the
easier.
50s and 60s for cheap, no, I don't buy it. No, China could do it for no money. So... What like that's what I want. I want a smaller Epson RD1 kind of design. I think that would be awesome. It feels like the RD1, if you haven't shot one, this is an old camera. It feels like you're shooting a Bessa rangefinder, but it just happens to spit out digital images, right?
It's
and
very
that's
pretty.
Cool. It's very cool. Yeah, and it's
you
gorgeous.
probably like
and
that dial on top too, I imagine.
Dude, it's great. The whole camera's amazing, right?
And if you're curious about that, we did do a retrospective on the RD1, so just search for it and you can see Chris run around shooting it.
It's so cool. But what about like Yashica's Y35, which is a garbage camera, but the idea of like actually loading different film canisters that then communicate digitally to the camera would be adorable.
Obviously, people loved that idea. That's why they managed to get a bunch of money out of people, and then they realized that what they created
it's almost garbage. It's adorable. But it's crap. But the idea is cool, right? The idea is cool. So something like that, or are these other companies that are making digital inserts for actual analog cameras? Maybe that's an interesting route to go, like the IMBACs and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot of people trying to mimic this experience. Fujifilm, I think, is going to do very well with this, and I know it's a first attempt, and so I absolutely do appreciate the love that's involved. The love is obviously genuine that this designer had for the experience, but it doesn't quite hit the mark for me yet to make it like a fun, usable tool all the time.
As a bit of a thought experiment, none of these companies would ever do it. But if you manage to convince Canon, who has gone on the record saying they think even vintage-inspired digital designs is a bad idea, they would never go this far. If you manage to convince the execs at Canon, Nikon, and Sony to make something like this, what do you think they would actually make? Like, what would it actually come out looking like? How close or how far would it get to what the X-Half is?
I've told them straight out, like, and I've said this many times, I want a QL17. I mean, the QL17G...
Would they make that?
Sorry?
Mm-hmm. Would they actually make it? Like, let's say that they actually went through the process and said, approved, we'll make something. How far do you think these companies would go? I think Canons would spit something else that would be ergonomic to hold, but hideous to look at.
If you're talking about how far would they actually go, I don't think Canon would go anywhere close to a QL17.
Yeah, you've convinced them to make a camera like this. So what's the most that they would do?
Oh, they'll trash. They won't do anything. They won't put a thumb winder on it. Nothing.
No thumb winder.
I don't know. I don't know what you want me to say.
I guarantee you, none of them would change the orientation of the back screen. It would never turn it up on its side like that. Absolutely not.
I don't know that I love the vertical screen. I'm still horizontal screen, Chris, right now. But I get why Fuji did it. Then. Yeah. Yeah.
I think Canon, like, everybody could just say, like, what were our glory days where we absolutely peaked, and Canon could just be like, well, that was the 5D Mark II. So just make a mirrorless camera that looks exactly like a 5D Mark II. Yeah. And everybody would lose their minds, I bet. There would be a crazy amount of nostalgia.
But funny. Canon and Nikon are one of the few companies that actually have beautiful vintage designs that they could borrow from, right? And Pentax, too, for sure. Like Sony would make something that looks like an RX1. They wouldn't make anything. They wouldn't make anything. I
don't feel like anyone would go this small though. This is like, I love how small it is. I don't know if anyone else would go that small, and everything else would also be way more expensive.
Yes. Yeah. You think more than $850? Everyone would charge more for it?
I think so.
That's the face.
I mean, the QL17 is the same size as that little camera, pretty much.
Oh wow.
There's one thing you go first, Jordan. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, on the Canon thing, one other thing they could do that might be interesting is the PowerShot digitals were based on the APS-C film. It wasn't PowerShot. It was something else. ELF was still the designation for them.
Yeah.
I could totally see them doing, like, bring back that classic SD series with the optical viewfinder on it, but move it up market. Make like a $900 bigger chip ELF. I think that would be really cool. And that's kind of embracing still that film and digital heritage.
I mean, maybe this X-Half will fail pitifully. Like, who knows? Like, because the argument
Fujifilm just prints money. They make a camera and it prints money.
They do.
When it rewound, I was like, and saw the numbers going back. I'm like, they're making $1 billion on this.
Yeah, it's adorable. But you know what?
So happy.
After the 10th time, you're like, yeah, okay. I'm just sitting here waiting to not be able to do anything.
You're just not fun, Chris.
No, I
editing the footage of it rewinding made me happy.
But let's, of course, I'm sure a lot of people out there in the comments are like, well, there's a very obvious answer to this, which is just go shoot an analog camera. Because,
but it's expensive.
Sure, but is it $900 expensive?
Yes.
Like,
Chris, do you know how much money I've spent on film in the last year?
But you have an illness. Like, you have an actual, like, there's, like, they should put it in a psychiatric manual. But yeah, like, I don't know. You could get a camera for cheap and shoot 10 rolls and still be under that price and have like that kind of experience. But you won't just shoot
10 rolls.
No, great. But then that's...
Yeah, the look and feel of film, I feel like still is unique in itself. And that's why I like shooting film, but I don't know.
This doesn't look like film shots.
Yeah.
Before we close our conversation on this, there's one aspect that none of us actually touched on. What's the smallest sensor size that you would allow in a camera like this? Because I think Type 1's too small. I think APS-C is where I go. APS-C and that's it. Maybe Micro Four Thirds.
I didn't mind Type 1 for this particular camera design because it's not about image quality, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the images are fine. Agree. They're fine. They're silly. They're fun. They're not that bad. I mean, yes, does your smartphone take better photos? Objectively, yes, it does. But like, they're not bad. But I love Micro Four Thirds. I mean, for me, that's still a sweet spot, as you know. And the GM5 is the perfect camera already.
Okay.
And
all right.
so you don't need to.
That's enough. And you're fine with Type 1, Sarah?
And it's way smaller than even that X-Half.
Oh my God.
I'm just saying.
Oh, that's crazy. Smaller than this.
Not when he puts his big ass 85 on there.
Sure, but you don't have to do that.
Yeah, I think this is probably the smallest I would prefer, but I kind of agree. I don't mind it because if we are trying to really emulate film, like you kind of need the lower quality, right? To maybe we need what was it? We were talking about the lens that you can like decrease the sharpness. Yeah, that's what we need.
There you go.
We need that.
Yeah, just a helier with spherical aberration control.
Yes.
Jordan, what do you think?
I would still want to have like at least a micro four thirds with a slightly faster lens. Like I would like it to look a little better than my smartphone. So, the effort I'm putting in is paying off. Not in a massive difference, but in a meaningful way that it's a better image. Yeah, and I was really fighting the highlights with this camera, I got to say. Like the very limited dynamic range.
Well, it shoots JPEG
only type 1. Yeah.
Yeah, like,
Did you guys edit any of your photos, or was it just straight out of
camera? Straight out of camera, yeah.
Yeah, for this one there, straight out of camera.
I don't think you can really. It's just a JPEG.
There's very little room to push. Yeah. No, it'd look terrible real quick.
But that's the point.
QL17 coupled rangefinder, I'm telling you, that's the answer. And then you put an APS-C sensor in there. You can make the lens a little bit smaller, and the coupled rangefinder would bring people a lot of joy.
I'm interested to read the comments on how many people are going to be as curmudgeon as Chris about this, and then we'll see the sales numbers, and you'll all be wrong.
I agree, it will sell.
All right.
Don't get me wrong.
Hey, Sarah, what have you been up to?
Oh God, what have I been up to? I mean, transparently, I spent a lot of the weekend editing so that I could get that video finished and out by Monday. But I'm really happy I did it. So no complaints about that. On Sunday, I did a whole morning hangout with a friend. And then I came home and just chilled because I just was tired from the weekend. But yeah, I don't know. Just a lot of work, to be honest. Like work on the side, like creative stuff, which is fun work. And then also like corporate job work. So a little bit of everything. Nothing that exciting, transparently. But this week, I have some dinner plans with friends. So just New York things.
Nice.
Jordan?
So I went out this weekend to the Slushy Cup up at Sunshine Village. So this is the end of the ski season. They call it the Slushy Cup because the snow, like walking around in it is exhausting because it is like breaking underneath you. It's awful. I was not skiing or snowboarding, but we went to go watch it. My niece and nephew were competing in a competition there. But it's so much fun to photograph because they're flying down the hill and then skimming over top of water and then onto rails while they're doing that. So super fun. But I mentioned before, I'm like, man, I wish I'd brought a telephoto because as soon as it started, they moved all the photographers away from the side of the event. And I really wanted to get close with water splashing towards the camera was kind of my goal going into it. And I did not get that. So look forward to a future sample gallery where you'll see tiny little people in the distance skimming over top of water.
Compelling.
But more important than that is when I parked, I jump out of my car and everybody is moving away from their vehicles. And I'm like, what is going on here? And right beside the parking lot, big black bear.
That's cool.
Yeah, right beside the parking lot and perfectly there's a bit of a hill by there with forest. So I'm like, if I had a telephoto, this would be an amazing bear in its natural habitat picture. And again, I'm at a 24, and in the sample gallery, it's going to be like, Where's Waldo? You can play and see if you can find the bear in my very wide frame because they were obviously keeping people away from it. Yeah, one of those times where we say you know what, really minimize your kit. That was a huge mistake for me this weekend.
You should have brought your Santa Claus bag with you, your Santa Claus
I should have had ultra wides and super tellies, all kinds of stuff I was missing over the course of the weekend. But it was a cool experience. And my niece and nephew got first and second in the under 18 category. So good for Olivia and Riley.
Are black bears common where you guys are?
This is the closest they're out there, but this is the closest I've ever been to a bear in its natural habitat.
I see more grizzlies than black bears, but we got both. Yeah.
That's cool.
And what do you do if a black bear attacks you guys?
Fight back.
You have to fight back because they're going to eat you.
Grizzlies are play dead. Black bears are fight back.
Yeah. Okay. Grizzlies, you play dead because you can't fight them anyways. You're going to die. And black bears, they're going to eat you. So you got to fight them back.
I could tell a horrifying story about that, but I'm going to save it. We'll do it some other day when we have nothing to talk about. I'll tell you a horrifying story.
Speaking of curmudgeons, it was my mother's 80th birthday. So
Happy birthday!
which is great. So we took her out to the.
I'm
Lake
glad
Louise.
Reiko doesn't listen.
Oh, dude, no, it was great. She had a wonderful time, but she's a curmudgeon. But she had a wonderful time. She loves the mountains. We went for a drive to Lake Louise. A couple hours, a little over a couple hours drive, and Lake Louise is beautiful. We had high tea, and it was really nice. At the chateau and stuff. She enjoyed it. It's a huge ripoff, but it's a great experience.
Was she in the car when I called you yesterday?
Yes. No, we were going to pick her up.
Yet. Got it. Okay.
Yes.
But I would have wanted to say hello.
I know. No, she had a lovely time, and that's what matters. So there you go. That's what we did.
I built planter boxes. I acquired the wood, and I got my saw out, and I built 3 large 8-foot by 2.5-foot boxes that are going to go along the fence line.
Raised beds.
He raised beds.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. Oh, you're copying me. I love it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm going to wear all of your clothes.
Well, Chris was the first person to use raised planters.
I invented the raised bed planter 10 years ago. Yeah.
I actually have 2 other raised beds that are in steel containers. Those ones are for flowers. So I'm growing dahlia, and then I'm going to do more like larger dinner plate dahlia. So I got smaller ones right now. I'm going to be planting the big ones later, probably this fall when that's really the planting season. And then I'm also going to do calla lily. And then in the actual boxes that I built are for vegetables. So I'm probably going to do tomatoes. Well, of course, tomatoes, because those are my favorite. But I might also do fruits like berries. I think I might actually keep them in a box, the raspberries, so I can control them.
Don't do it. No, they won't. They'll go under the box and they'll spread everywhere. Jaron, a wooden box will not contain raspberries.
Well, I'm going to do blackberry for sure because Marionberry.
They spread with suckers too. Dude, you're screwed. Don't do it.
I love them, so it's fine if they keep growing, whatever. Against my back fence, the other side of the property that's not mine, they have just like ivy. So I'm already battling that coming through the fence on one side. I should just fight back with berries going the other way and see who wins, which invasive.
Carrots, you can't go wrong with carrots, dude. Because you can leave them in the ground.
I've never had good luck with anything that grows underground. Never had good luck with
carrots are easy. Carrots are super easy. You just have decent soil. And corn. Do corn. Carrots and corn. It's great.
I think I'm going to treat my boxes with tung oil, T-U-N-G, in an attempt to keep them from disintegrating in about a decade. I want to try and get 15 years out of them. Even though these are cedar boxes that should last longer.
That's all you need.
They still tend to give out. So we'll see. I don't know. Chris thinks I shouldn't put the effort in. It's a lot of work to treat them.
I think you have no children. You should put all the effort in.
Great. All right, we're going to get to tech support. We'll get through as many of these as we can. Let's start with an email that we got from, I don't know. I don't know if this is the name. It's just basically what their email address was. They didn't sign it.
Evalev.
But Evalev. I don't see any of you on the speakers list for this year's B&H Build event. Well, you didn't look very closely. Are you planning on attending? I was at the first build and was disappointed to have the opportunity to not have the opportunity to see you in person. Any chance this year?
We're there.
Yes. We're going to be there.
What day is it?
June 7th? Hold on. Jordan, tell them what we're doing there.
I thought it's a Wednesday.
Yeah, we are going to be doing a live podcast, and we will be taking questions from the audience. We're still figuring out exactly how that's going to play out.
Yep.
Because we, don't want to just be answering emails while we're up there, but also getting mics out to people. It sounds like I don't know. We're still working on it, but
they seem interested in making it happen.
Question. We will be there in person, and we're also going to be hanging out after the event as well.
Schmooze.
So in the event and we're probably not going to get to everybody while we're actually on stage there, but we will be easily accessible. So come chat with us, say nice things to us, get a picture. It'll be great.
There you go.
There is a 7 and an 8 in it, so I wasn't insane, but it's June 17th and 18th.
I told you, Sarah. I told you, Sarah.
Great.
So there you go.
But what day are you guys going? On the 17th or 18th?
We'll be there both days, but the 18th is the day we're on stage on the photo stage.
So that's the only day that matters. Everyone show up for the 18th.
Currently planned for 2 p.m. on the photo stage. So that we'll have more information to share once B&H gives it to us to share. But yeah, we will be at Build, so don't miss out. We'll talk about that more over the next few weeks to make sure people know that we'll be at Build.
I'm trying to figure out a way to make this visually compelling for a live event. So we'll see what we come up with. I don't know.
Can I dress you in a full clown suit with the shoes and the nose? That would be visually compelling.
That would be cute.
Whatever you say, boss.
We'll dress as Mario and Luigi. Yeah, we'll dress as Mario and Luigi.
You say Mario? It's Mario.
Mario.
Yeah, it's
Mario.
wrong.
He tells you at the start of Nintendo 64 how to pronounce
Yeah,
it.
that's right. All right, next one's an email from MJS Cox. I've gone from one system to another over many decades. 2 years ago, I tried a Toyo 4x5 camera for a while, but surprisingly, it wasn't very good for street photography.
No.
I believe that is a sarcasm. My last system switch was from a Nikon DSLR to Fujifilm GFX cameras and lenses. As I lug around the GFX 100S and one or two lenses, I realize there's no way in hell I want to travel with them, even though I love the images they produce. As over several hours, the wait is exhausting. I might consider the new GFX 100 RF, but I know I would have to sell something to afford it. So, do I lose money yet again and sell a trade-in for the GFX gear for what? I mean, it's hard to say because
Actually, Toyo 4x5s, just to clarify, actually are pretty decent for street photography if you want to go like Ouija old school 4x5. They're like plastic and carbon fiber. They're actually quite lightweight, so they're actually very portable. But that's still masochistic. I wouldn't do that. That's a horrible idea. Yeah, I mean, the GFX 100 RF would certainly make a lot of sense from the same standpoint of having that image quality, and it is a compact camera, and it's decently focusing, but it's meant to be cropped, right? That fixed lens does limit you in a lot of ways, and it sounds like you like having different focal lengths. It's meant to be cropped, and so you have to be okay with giving up a lot of that image quality. Granted, you have a lot of megapixels, but still, I think you guys get the point. So, you know, for street photography, but you still, obviously your emphasis is still on having high megapixels and high image quality. I would probably go like Sony A7R5, honestly. It's a great street camera. I think Sarah can attest to that as well. She just used one there for street photography. Like, it focuses brilliantly. It's actually on the smaller side as full frame mirrorless cameras go. You got tons of lenses to choose from, many different styles and price points, and 60 megapixel images are beautiful. Tons of dynamic range, lots of room to crop, big prints. I think it's fantastic for that.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out, like, if you're gonna crop it anyways, then you're basically, if you go past 35 millimeters, you're shooting on an A7R5 sensor at that point. One thing I would just quickly throw out, there is an A7CR that's even smaller and gets you the same image quality there.
True.
Sorry, Sarah.
That is true. No, yeah. I was going to say that, like, although I wouldn't say the A7R5 is too big, especially if you're already shooting on a GFX 100S, which is going to feel huge compared to the Sony.
Yes.
I think the size is already an improvement, but personally, sometimes I wish it was a little smaller, but it just depends on what lens you're using. Like I said, I typically am just like defaulting to my 24-70, which is relatively compact, but I wish I had some more like smaller pancakes or like just smaller lenses in general for street specifically.
But you can get those.
That. You can get those.
You could get a Bessa R2A. And shoot. Next one's an email from Doug. Chris, I enjoyed your review on the DJI Mavic 4 Pro. I live in Washington State. I have two questions about the drone I hope you can answer. First, in all the photos of the Mavic and in your video, it shows two legs under the rotors at the camera end, but no legs under the rear rotors to keep it parallel to the ground when taking off and landing. From what I see, the unit would have to sit on the ground with the rear lower than the front. Is that true? Answer that first.
Yeah, it does sit a little bit lower. I mean, it's still fairly parallel on the ground. I was a little bit worried about rotors chopping grass and stuff like that, but I didn't notice it to be a problem any worse than like the other Mavics. Like, obviously, if you've got branches and twigs and stuff like that, that's not a great landing point. Tall grass, it's not a great landing point. But we did land it on like muddy patches or, you know, lawns and grass and stuff, and it actually did okay.
Yeah, it was chopping grass sometimes with mid-size stuff, but
nothing too crazy though. Yeah. So that answers your next question. If taking off onto the grass, it would appear the rear rotor blades would turn to a weed whacker. Well, not as bad as he thought.
Second, do you know what the weight of that it can carry as a payload? I use mine with a small flashlight attached. Would that work?
It's got upgraded motors. They're quite strong. You could it's probably able to lift. Oh, I don't know. I think the official payload's pretty low. The official payload's like 60 grams. You could probably go higher than that safely. You could probably honestly lift the same weight as the drone, but I wouldn't do that. So, I think you want to stick a flashlight on there. You want to put a small flashlight underneath to light the ground at night. Yeah, and stuff like that. So, I mean, you'd probably be okay with it. But the official line that I've seen is 60 grams, which is not that much weight.
Yeah, it's interesting because they actually made an attachment for the Mini 3 Pro, which was a 100-gram maximum limit, and that is a much smaller drone. So I did a little digging because there's no official word on the 4 Pro. It's so new. With the 3 Pro, just looking at other forums and stuff, it looks like 250 grams is kind of the recommended thing that you want to be under. So I think it's safe
60.
to estimate that. Yeah.
All right. Next one is a travel question from Eric.
Hi, today I was on PetaPixel crew. I intend to travel overseas, and I intend to bring a rather minimal but heavy-duty setup for my photography needs. For this case, it will be an A7RP and a Sony 28-70 f2, but I intend to keep the setup rather minimal. So what else besides a tripod and batteries is suggested to bring with me whilst keeping the setup minimal? Thank you in advance. Bye.
This is tough to answer without knowing what your full intention is, Eric. I mean, for travel, of course.
Sarah with the finger guns. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, but the 20-70 is a beautiful lens, and it's heavy, and it covers the need to take any like wide aperture primes. I would want maybe like a 135 prime just so I have that little extra reach for certain situations. Bring filters, but otherwise you're good. I don't know. What do you think, Sarah, for travel?
I was going to say the exact same. Like if you wanted to bring a telephoto, then you're covered on all fronts, because then you could just kind of default to the 20-70 f2 for any like portraits because it has a wide enough aperture. But yeah, it just depends on what you're shooting. I don't know. I feel like these questions are always really difficult without the full context.
Now you're getting the crisp experience.
Yeah, like because I know you guys were talking about like wanting to have a really big telephoto on you at all times. I wanted to do that for Iraq, but also I knew that I wasn't really going to get a lot of opportunity to use it. So then I was okay sacrificing and not bringing that, which is why I went on the wider end, because I knew that there would be more like architecture and wider scenes to capture. So depending on where you're traveling, I think that's just how I usually determine which range of the focal length I'd prefer to bring, whether it's prime or zoom.
Maybe a compact 20 would be nice.
I immediately thought of the Sigma 17 f4, which is a fantastic lens, and it's incredibly small. But I want someone to make a slow 135, please, like a 135 2.8. I know there's the old Zeiss out there still, but that guy's a little long in the tooth. Like, make me an itty bitty one. Like, there's the 90 millimeter Sigma that Chris really likes. I want a 135 in that same series. Make it slow and sharp, and that would be exceptional.
I do travel right now.
I do travel that.
105-25 from Nikon is like beautiful.
I travel with that 90 a lot because it's small. That's exactly the reason why I take it. Yeah.
All right. Next one is a speak pipe from Tim Kastner.
Hello, Chris, Jaron, and Jordan. I'm speak piping you from Germany, and I've got a video-centric question. So I think this goes more into the direction of Jordan, but I would love to get some advice of all three of you. I'm mainly an enthusiastic amateur photographer, but in future I would love to do some videos of my vacations as well, mostly for showing to family. I would love to get some advice on an easily understandable workflow from editing to exporting. I don't want to mess around with editing tools too much, especially with difficult color grading methods. To sum it up in one question, what is your recommended easy and efficient workflow for producing the occasional travel video without using expensive software or learning extensive color grading methods? I'm currently using a Sony a7 IV and a Leica Q3, and if possible, I want to avoid further investments. Maybe if the stars aligned, I could justify an Osmo Pocket 3 though. Thanks a lot for the most interesting podcast in history and much love from Germany.
Wow. Ever.
Wow.
That's great. Wow. Kastner. Thank you, Tim.
So the one big question I have here is the platform. Are you on PC, Mac, or my top recommendation actually for people who are just getting started is Final Cut for iPad is incredibly intuitive and actually quite powerful. My test is always like, because you can get Resolve for free, which is an incredibly powerful thing. But as soon as you open, as soon as you do like create new project, it's immediately terrifying. So if you can follow a tutorial to get through the initial steps, then. But your question is about like what's easy to embrace and not too intimidating. So yeah, Final Cut for iPad is my number one pick. If you're going to go outside of that, I already beat the Final Cut drum earlier in this episode, but just with my kids, they very intuitively understand the editing process for Final Cut compared to a traditional NLE. So I do think it's very easy to grasp. But don't do iMovie. You'll immediately become frustrated by the bottlenecks. And steer clear of Premiere as well. It's still quite an intimidating interface. And Adobe has discontinued all of their like Rush and their very easily accessible NLE platforms as well.
Yeah, they keep not being able to make an easy to use NLE. If you're going to use an iPad, another one to look at is LumaFusion. Ted Forbes used LumaFusion for years to edit like his YouTube videos, and it is a touch-first interface, and it also works on Mac too, so you can actually go back and forth. So if you end up liking LumaFusion, you don't have to feel like you're tied only to the iPad.
Right.
Same thing with Final Cut, except it doesn't go back and forth quite as easily. And
just go iPad to desktop, which has kind of limited us on our workflow. But I love
Final Cut. Yeah, I love Final Cut for iPad. I use it. Yeah. I hate the iPad.
Do you also edit on Final Cut, Chris?
I do Final Cut for iPad specifically. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Like strictly iPad.
Strictly iPad, yeah. And it sucks that you can't really go back and forth between the two. Not that I would buy a Mac computer, no way. But it's good software. I mean, the other thing I would suggest, like Tim, your other questions here, Sony a7 IV, Leica Q3, perfectly fine for capturing video. No issues there. Avoid log, just stick to like standard Rec 709 profiles, like simple profiles. Then you don't have to worry about color grading too much. And you'll still get good footage. There's no issues there.
Yeah. The A7 IV does have the S-Cinetone profile, which I really like.
That is nice too.
If you just deliver immediately. Sarah, what did you shoot all your video stuff on the A7R5?
I technically just shot log because I wanted to practice my color grading, and so I did end up doing that. It wasn't too bad, honestly, because once you get into Final Cut and you have like a solid like base grade, then you just copy paste it, and so it's actually pretty... Yeah. Like, it wasn't complicated. I feel like whenever I tried to use DaVinci, like, I was just so confused. I understand the concept, but, like, the fact that there are so many different buttons and options was just, like, too much. Because you only end up using, like, 4 or 5 of the exact same things, and there's so much overkill extra stuff that you don't need. I agree. But, yeah, I mean, I think Final Cut Pro makes it really easy to color grade as well. And I'm like brand new to all this, so the fact that I could do it was easy.
I hate myself, so I use Premiere, and I refuse to change because I'm old. So there you go. I have no solution for you. Don't do what I'm doing.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
All right, we'll do one more this week. This is an email from Kevin. And I think this is more, he wanted us to do like a full thing, but I think we can answer this question on the podcast here. I'd like to see a concise comparison of subject detection autofocus performance across brands. Oh, man. Personally, I'm interested in pro or near pro cameras, Z8, OM1 Mark II, and Fujifilm ? And most interested in the ability to focus on a subject that has some light obstruction in front of it, like a twig in front of a bird. Is Fujifilm's autofocus still so bad I shouldn't consider their cameras? Is Sony's dominant on autofocus?
Yeah, of course, that's a loaded question. We can always only give you like a very like basic thing. For my money, like what I'm assuming you're talking about, Kevin, is serious action photography, because that's where it really does push it. And I think Jordan can talk about video autofocus as well. Because all the cameras do a great job for portraits. They do a fine job for most, obviously, landscapes and like street photography to some degree. But sometimes street photography, I want more reliable autofocus. For my money, I still think Sony make probably one of the most reliable autofocusing systems, certainly one of the most intuitive. Like very little needs to be set up ahead of time. Their real-time tracking is easy. It works. You can put it on people and it will go to face and eye. You can put it on animals. It'll do that. You put it on inanimate objects. It'll track that as well. And so I think that their system is very straightforward. The other companies need a little bit of customization to work to their best. I would say Nikon has probably come a big way for me recently. Their 3D tracking autofocus is really, again, quite straightforward. You don't need to do that much customization. I was really blown away by how well the Z5 II tracked really fast-moving subjects over vertical transitions, quick movement, and did a great job. Canon also, very good system. You do need to set up the autofocusing response, smooth, quick, does it ignore things coming into it? You have to do a little bit more of that, and that helps if you're doing more demanding photography. But I'd say Sony, Nikon, Canon are probably at the top. OM system still needs a little bit of work. Their subject detection works okay, but their tracking autofocus for inanimate objects, not ideal. Fujifilm I'd actually put in a very similar boat. Good subject detection modes, good face-eye detection, not great when you want to just track inanimate objects, sometimes not quite able to give you the hit rate that you're looking for. And then there's Pentax. So,
You left one out, and that's Sigma, and the BF autofocus is incredible.
It was really good.
More testing required. Yes,
I thought it was really good.
The Sigma BF is the greatest autofocusing camera
of all time. I think maybe it's so impressive because the predecessor to that was pretty bad. So bad. And then suddenly it's like, oh my god, it's actually like working.
Yes,
it was really fast.
Again, I don't know if it can keep up for high end sports and action photography. I don't know. I don't think so. But yes, like if you're looking for pro stuff,
standard pictures, the hate for Fujifilm autofocus is greatly overstated.
Yes, 100%.
It's bad in video, for sure. It loves to pulse. Yep. But for pictures, it is not as bad as people make it out to be. Like it's reliable.
I agree. But for fast action in sports, I do still have issues with it.
And I don't know that Fujifilm really pushes super hard in that direction. I mean, they make telephotos now that make you seem like you might want to, but like it's not their bread and butter, and people who buy Fujifilm cameras don't typically expect to do that kind of work.
I know there's guys screaming on the screen right now. They're like, I use my Fujifilm for bird photography all the time, blah, 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 skill, yada, yada. You just need to be a good photographer.
Yeah.
But like the other companies are more reliable and give you higher hit rates that I've mentioned, I believe. Yeah.
So I do a lot of the ninja recording when we're talking about autofocus performance on cameras. And speaking outside of just hit rate and things in terms of actually detecting things, Sony I'd say is number one for people by a wide margin. But takes a minute to, especially if you're using the animal detect on it, it takes longer to actually be like, oh, that's an animal over there. It'll just start tracking it as an inanimate object. I'd say Canon is the best for animal. Like it'll see that it's an animal before I've even noticed it in the frame. They're exceptional for that. But both of those, you have to really set them up as, I'm looking for a human or I'm looking for an animal. Nikon is the best if you're not sure what you're going to find, because you can put that thing on auto tracking mode, and whether it's a person or an animal, responsiveness seems pretty damn close. So I do really like that in those situations. So I'd kind of prioritize them that way. I'd also say Canon has the best vehicle detection, where it goes right to the driver very quickly. I was really impressed by that. In terms of video, I think it's quite similar, but I think Sony's advantage is ahead of everybody at that right now. Whenever I get a Sony camera, I will use the tracking autofocus on it and never have to think about it, which is great because so many of their cameras don't have electronic viewfinders. So I'm just like, well, I can't really tell if it's 100% in focus. We're going to trust it. And you generally can with those, where I find everything else, Canon, Sony, the Panasonics, I'm always trying to keep an eye on it and make sure that autofocus isn't wandering.
I think you meant Canon, Nikon, and Panasonic.
Yeah, I probably meant whatever Chris just said.
And we didn't talk about Panasonic. Their autofocus does need some work for sports and action as well. We've talked about this too. So, I put it in that sort of Fujifilm camp.
All right, last one real quick before we go. Feel good story of the week. The SD card turned 25 this week.
What?
25. It can now legally rent a car in the United States. So congratulations, SD. You are the easily longest lasting digital storage media for cameras that has existed. It's still active.
Does that include the earlier format, multimedia card format, which
did
came
that last
before
longer?
SD?
So What?
It's the same form factor.
It's the same form factor. I believe it's a different architecture.
It's a different. They made SD to compete with Memory Stick. Remember Memory Stick?
Oh, Memory Stick.
Good old Memory Stick.
Purple.
You know what didn't last 25 years?
Sarah, do you remember
memory sticks?
Do you remember Memory Stick?
No.
Memory Stick is trash. Everyone hated memory stick except Sony. It was one of Sony's proprietary memory things. They do this every generation of technology. They create a proprietary one, and they don't usually win until they do win on occasion. But memory stick was theirs, and it was.
I think Blu-ray was the last time they won.
And that was like I think they may have even been surprised themselves. Like, oh shoot, we actually won this one. Everyone's using Blu-ray. But that's it. Congratulations to SD for making it 25 years. You will probably get even more because people still use SDs very happily.
Going strong.
All right, that's the episode for this week. Make sure to pick up a PetaPixel membership if you like what we're doing here. Thanks to Sarah for coming by and talking about your Iraq video again. We'll see more from you, I'm sure. Give her some love. If you haven't seen that video, please do. Next week, Chris Jordan and I are going to Chile. We will be podcasting from somewhere. I don't know where yet. We'll find out.
I'll tell you what I've forgotten when we get to Chile. That'll be the update for next week. I'll finally
underwear, toothbrush, lenses, filters, batteries. Yes.
Thanks, everyone. Catch you next time.
Bye.